anime found its way into my art room early on. I remember distinctly walking around the classroom after I had spent a few minutes lecturing. The students were supposed to be working on their project, prepping for execution, and sketching out their ideas. I walked behind a young student and quickly noticed they had some sort of how to draw anime book on their lap. My heart rate quickened, and I knew that I had to do something. I stooped low, and the student noticed me, and their eyes grew wide in sudden dread. I paused for a moment and asked, "So, what is your favorite anime?" Greetings, my name is Zach, and I taught middle and high school art for 11 years. Art teachers often have a reputation for disdaining and mocking anime-based art. In my last video on the topic, linked below, I talked about some of the reasons why your art teacher might hate anime. And here we are going over some of the reasons I loved having it and often encouraged it in my classroom. Including anime in the class promotes inclusivity. The art classroom, by its nature, ought to be a place for students to experiment and explore new ideas. By taking a hard stance against something, whether it be anime, video games, or even a particular artist, the teacher creates an environment that is decidedly non-inclusive. Stepping on students' loves right out of the gate creates an adversarial classroom, one that makes the students afraid to bring things to the table and to introduce their own ideas. Allowing for and encouraging anime art was a simple way for me to show the students that their feelings and affections mattered, and they had a safe place to coalesce and take flight. Anime adds a unique variety of styles and ideas to the art classroom. In the art room, the individual students and the variety of ideas they bring to the table give life to the space. Having the juxtaposition of so many different ideas colliding at the table, or during a critique, is one of the unique and wonderful things about that room. Anime is its own creature, a different media than a lot of what graces the classroom, and specifically different than most of the art that teachers bring to the table. In its uniqueness, it adds flavor and character that are often not represented in those arenas. Students who have never been exposed to some of the concepts, ideas, and stylistic choices get to see them, become enamored with them, and potentially inspired to do new and different things of their own. Anime is different enough from everything else that comes from art history that it is like a shot of adrenaline for many young artists. On another note, anime is often seen as countercultural to the art room, as it is so modern and so different from the stuff of antiquity. Though it may annoy some teachers, the classrooms of our classical ancestors were devised to accommodate the diversity needed for conversation. When looking at Van Gogh, is there any real issue with considering, was his stylization really more beautiful than anything else? Or have we placed it upon a pedestal over time? Was Michelangelo as advanced as we now consider him? Now, I am not asserting that Van Gogh or Michelangelo are any less magnificent than we currently consider them. I'm only implying that allowing for the discussion between the ancient and the modern is productive in the realm of an art classroom. When you bring anime in as a burgeoning art form and place it on a pedestal next to Van Gogh, what manner of discussion do you get? In truth, both are inspired by Japanese culture. One is the modern ancestor of it, and the other was inspired by woodcuts and prints brought to Europe in the same time period. Can we unequivocally say that Van Gogh's work is more beautiful, more human than Akira Toriyama's? I'm not sure I want to open that can of worms right now, but I'm comfortable looking back on the fact that, in his time, Van Gogh was underappreciated. What we now call visionary work was seen in a darker light at the time. Are we so proud that we believe we can categorize the anime style as being diminutive to other forms of art, whilst we live in the era of its infancy and creation? History would have some choice words for us as it chuckles and tells us to get off its lawn. The classroom is made better by discourse, and bringing the variety of ideas and the newness of anime to the table is a benefit to all, even if some teachers are opposed to the concept. Not only is anime interesting by its nature, the medium also allows for different things than live action or Western animation does. Anime often takes itself a little more seriously than Western cartoons do. Perhaps this stems from many of America's cartoons still being largely produced for younger audiences. Because of this seriousness, you get interesting things like the juxtaposition of humor against this more serious background, or the ability to deal with topics like slavery and human injustice. On this point, why do companies feel the need to make live-action versions of anime? It never seems to work, and to me it suggests that the broader media consumer looks at anime as a less than proficient media, and therefore they want to do the good deed of updating it and porting it to the official and high-class arena of live action. But why? Anime is a complete media in and of itself. I don't need to see live-action Trigun. It was a masterpiece when it came out. Ninja Scrolls doesn't need a reboot, and the Cowboy Bebop live-action series flopped like no one's business. Anime is loved not because it exhibits amazing ideas that some businessman can take and convert into a different form. It is loved in part due to the animation qualities and ethereal components that come from it being animated. This situation leaves me continually scratching my head as attempt after attempt is made, and all in vain it seems. I am terrified for the One Piece live-action series, as it is my favorite manga, and I just can't see how that could possibly do it justice. There is going to have to be so much CG involved. Why not just leave it as an anime and let that be enough? Maybe just go back and redo all the early anime arcs with the quality you're putting into Wano. I mean, the anime looks pretty awesome right now. Anime is an excellent push toward an artistic journey. Everyone needs a trigger or a catalyst to get them into art in the first place. The old masters had theirs in the form of apprenticeships or mentorships with prior masters, or the influence that art held from prominent patrons in places like Venice or Rome. Art movements were often an overreaction to the movement that came prior, a punk rock reaction of nonconformity to the social norms of their time. In the last few decades, that catalyst has been everything from the artists that came prior, to stories and games, to cartoons and anime. Technology has allowed for the dispersal of ideas and concepts at a rate that our ancestors could barely fathom. Anime as a starting point is not altogether different than many of the other potential catalysts. It is an art form of its own. It has rules that it plays by, and thusly it provides a guide for learning its ways. Arguably, it takes far less time to become proficient at drawing anime characters than it does to create realistic portraiture, and that is part of the benefit here. Learning a particular style or having a style that guides you into art can be much less complicated than trying to learn the immensity of the entire world all at once. Will your artwork improve if you study multiple styles and learn from life? Of course! Studying more than one thing at a time is very difficult, though. And if anime is the starting point that one takes to get them into art in the first place, what a wonderful gate it can be. Everyone needs a starting point, and anime provides this for many. In fact, it might be more proper to say that animation and cartoons provide this for many. How many of you worked from animated references in the past? I know I did. I love to sit down and draw characters from Shonen Jump or from the guidebooks to my favorite video games. In a way, cartoons were a large portion of what got me into art in the first place. That and my father's jungle excursions. Lastly, anime is fun. There doesn't always need to be some highly efficient or logical reason to why something is beneficial or good. It brings so many things to the table, it's so entertaining, and beloved by so many. This is why this art teacher loves anime. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a good one, y'all. See you soon.